What's going on? Welcome into AniMan Plus, episode 65. We are back after like a month break. We had some shit pop up. We'll talk about that here in a moment. It's good to be back for the show. You know, it's just starting up the show right now. That song it hit different just now, where it's like, oh yeah, we're back in action. I got Zach in here with me. Zach, how you doing? How you feeling with the return of AniMan Plus?
I'm doing good. I'm ready to do it. It's been a bit.
It has been a bit.
I sort of agree with you when you said that, but I was sort of on the other side. I went, this is nice. But I feel like this point, with how we've done everything, this is about the point where we try and switch song again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, get another new intro song. Which, you know, funny enough, I was just kind of scrolling through, like, you know, my mix from my, like, YouTube music, whatever, and it played the original lighthearted intro as one part of my mix, and I'm just like, damn, this is a throwback. I listened to the whole song. I'm like, damn, this thing was a bop. This was a great song.
I mean, it was.
Yeah, dude. I think it was called Emerald Sky. I forgot who it was by, but it was a great song. Yeah, it's been a long time since we've done AniMan Plus. Glad to be back here at 65. And right before we started recording, we had a realization. On 64, we were teasing this big announcement, the next step for SparkE3, and then 65 obviously never came out until now. So we never got to make the announcement. So for those very select few individuals that I would say, like, if you listen to this show like on an audio platform probably, and you don't follow us on socials, you have no idea what the announcement was. But if you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, which by the way, if you're not, you subscribe, youtube.com/SparkE3, then you already know what the announcement is. If you follow the other shows, if you follow us on Twitter or whatever, then you already know. But we launched a website, SparkE3.com. You can sign up for free. We'd appreciate that. You can also sign up for $5 a month, get early access to podcast episodes, exclusive blog posts, special access to our Discord server, which is also linked down below. You know, I'll throw in some discount codes for the merch store, because we got SparkE3shop.com. AniMan Plus merch is on there as well. So that was the big announcement. I mean, it was the next step for SparkE3. It is the next step for SparkE3. It's been a lot of fun so far. Looking forward to seeing what the future can continue to evolve into. Of course, go follow us at Twitter at AniMan Podcast, where you can stay up to date with all of this stuff. You know, why we randomly disappear sometimes, as well as check out the other shows like Gamesthetic, Terrible Football Show, and talk about movies and stuff. So I'll go ahead and cut the music. We'll go ahead and kind of jump into some stuff here. So this episode is going to be a little bit different than the norm, because obviously if you follow AniMan Plus, then you know that we usually, you know, do weekly reviews of the latest animes in, you know, per season. So right now we're in the winter season, right? Yeah, winter season. Manga chapter ratings and stuff like that. This episode is going to be a little bit different, because I will be brutally honest, I am not caught up with any of the animes we've been watching.
I was about to say, as you said, it's been about a month since we did this, so yep. I mean, I'm caught on several of them, but not all of them. So it's sort of been a thing of, we've sort of missed the whole period to do our weekly reviews at this point. Yeah. And, you know, with that, it actually kind of, it's one thing that actually inspired today's topic. So today's episode, we're going to be just focusing on a single topic. And this is an idea that we might try more in the future, whether if it's going to be for, you know, standalone, like numbered official episodes like 66, 67, blah, 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 whatever, or maybe AniMan Plus, you know, bonus episodes on the website, SparkE3.com with the premium tier. I mean, this is something that we want to try. We actually have like a list of like 10 different topics lined up right now that we want to go through. But today's topic is actually going to be what makes an anime or manga good, what makes it worth watching, what makes it worth coming back to. And the reason why, all right, so just being fully transparent to our fans, all right, to the people that listen to the show, we disappeared because I had shit pop up in my personal life and I had to take a step back from podcasting. That was the bottom line. You know, if you follow the other shows, you know I also took a step back from Gamesthetic. Shout out to Zach and John for holding it down. Terrible Football Show I powered through because we were literally at the end of our season. And then right after the end of the season, we took a 1 week break. So that was fine, whatever. But we're back in the saddle. And during this time period, like, shit still hasn't settled down for me. Like, I probably got, like, I would say from the contract that I was looking at in there, I probably have in May when things will be officially done, right? Beginning of May, all my hectic bullshit will be done. So up to this month, trying to gear back up to do AniMan Plus, where, you know, AniMan Plus is a commitment show. You know, you got to watch the shows, you got to read the chapters, whatever. I'll be honest, it's just I've been in one of those moods where it's like I just didn't want to watch it. I didn't want to watch anything. You know, the only thing that I was consistently watching was Demon Slayer, because Demon Slayer was hype as shit. It was awesome finale. But like, that's what inspired me for this topic today, is because all these shows we've been watching for this season, they're all shows that I would recommend. In fact, you know, one of them, Sabugi Bisco, I've gone out of my way to show friends of mine that short that I made
to recommend it to them because it's just of how wild it is, right? Like Tribe 9, I'd recommend. In the Land of Leodel, I would recommend. Love of Kill, I only watched 3 episodes. I'd still recommend it. You know, I'd recommend all these, but none of these shows like completely just grab me where it's like I have to tune in every week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, even this past weekend, we had the return of 86 with a recap episode. By the time this episode is up, a new episode of 86 will be out for the final 2 episodes of the season. I'm tuning into that immediately. Last fall, Talk Op Destiny. Tune into that pretty much every single week, I think. I might have missed one. Tokyo Revengers, every week. You know, like there are those certain shows that just grab you that no matter what is going on, you know, you want to tune into it. And it's like when it comes to this past anime season, it just... Like, I feel like in the time we've been doing AniMan Plus and been doing it in the format that we have, I feel like this is one of the weaker seasons that we've come across. The only one that would be weaker, I would say, would probably be last summer because we only reviewed one fucking show from that season, which was Tsukimichi. But we had carryovers. We had Tokyo Revengers and Edens that were carryovers from spring.
Well, I mean, last summer that was when we picked up Tsukimichi.
Yep.
Dragon Quest, I think, was in there. I'm pretty sure Dragon Quest.
I think Dragon Quest been around a little bit longer than that.
I'm pretty sure because it was either right at the end of spring or beginning of summer is when Dragon Quest started.
I want to say it was spring.
Okay. I just remember Dragon Quest is when I was starting to go, when is this ending?
Which, hey, might be ending soon, apparently. What you were telling me.
Yeah, possibly. It could still go for at least another 10 episodes.
Okay. Well, I mean, hey, if it's just another 10 episodes, at least that means that you are going to be done with it soon, though. Maybe. But no, I mean that's the thing though with this topic today is that like all these shows like they're not very grabbing. They're good, they're fun watches. I would recommend them, and I think Zach would as well. I know Zach would definitely recommend In the Land of Leodel.
Yes,
but they're like they're not grabbing. You know what I mean? Which that does bring us to our topic today. And what we're gonna do for the show while I'll be up front while I'm trying to get my shit together here is we may do like review episodes every other episode. I mean that's currently the plan. So next week in theory should be a review episode of some of these shows that we're watching. It might be another topic. It depends on what all we watch this week. We'll see. We may do multiple episodes in a row of different topics. Like I said, we got currently like 10 lined up and we got more coming. We're going to still do like a review episode here soon, do manga chapter ratings and stuff. So, I mean, if you're a fan of the show, just bear with us. We really just wanted to bring the show back. My bottom line is I didn't want the show to stay on hiatus until May or June. I didn't want that to happen, especially because fuck you, Zach. Shield Hero Season 2 is about to come out, so I'm very pumped up for that. Shield Hero Season 2, Spy Family. So I wanted to get the show back before the spring season started.
I'm still waiting for that freaking delay.
It's not going to happen. They announced the date today or yesterday, whatever it was. I think it was yesterday.
I mean, they can announce date all they want.
It's coming.
Help.
It's coming.
It's in the same field as Digimon Survive.
Okay, stop. That doesn't exist, first off. I'm convinced. That does not exist. Before we actually jump into the topic, let's kind of go over a little bit of a quick little combo recap here, because a lot of stuff's happened in the month we've been gone. So Demon Slayer was hype as shit. Very, very awesome. Loved every bit of that climax of that season. We also got the announcement of Season 3, the Swordsmith Village arc, which should be the final arc before the Infinity Castle. I don't think there was another arc in between those. I think after this one, we're going straight to the Infinity Castle, which is the final arc of the series, and an absolutely wild one. Demon Slayer, Dr. Stone ended, so thank God to that. God, I am just massive anti-Dr. Stone right now. I really am. I thought the last, like 10 chapters were just all, garbage. 0 out of 10s for me, dog. How did you feel about the ending?
I mean, it was all right. It's not entirely what I was expecting, considering how everything was going. But I mean, we're apparently in the minority. Apparently,
I know
people really loved how this went, and I'm just over here going, all right.
Yeah, just okay, whatever. I mean, we really are in the minority. Like when I was seeing the leaks for the chapter, everyone was just raving how incredible this last arc has been. I'm like, bro, the moment we got past that time skip, it all went downhill. I don't know what you're talking about. Fire Force also ended. That with a very interesting ending. Very, very interesting ending with how it went down. I'll go ahead and spoil it. I really don't give a shit.
Well, fuck.
Yeah, I really don't care.
Spoiler warning.
Spoiler warning. Skip ahead probably 10 seconds. Okay, so wait for it. Spoiler is about to happen. You have a chance to skip ahead. So Fire Force is a Soul Eater prequel, which is ridiculous with how it's set up. That's absolutely insane.
I mean, I can see that.
Yeah, for sure. Yozakura is back on its hype train. It is back on its hype train. My dude, hardcore. Top 10. Oh my God, incredible. Of course, 86 about to come back. We got Shield Hero kicking off on April 6th. Black Clover movie. We did get a release window for that announced for 2023. I really thought it was going to be this year. It seems like that. I thought it was originally announced for this year, but it seemed, I'm assuming just a delay out of that. But that also kind of puts in perspective when we could potentially get the anime back. So not till like 2023, like late probably 2023 or 2024 before the anime comes back. And by that point, the series will be done. I'm gonna go ahead and say it right now because I'm convinced Black Clover is ending. I am convinced. I wouldn't say this is a spoiler because nothing's been announced towards that, but just the way that like the vibes, bro. I mean, are you still with me on it?
I'm still reading it. I mean, with how everything's been progressing, it just feels like this is in-game wrapping stuff up. If it's not ending after this, maybe one more arc, but I'm very unsure at this point what they would do for a final arc.
Yeah, see, I do too, because I feel like where we are, it's just like, in this world that you've created, where do you go from here with who they're fighting? You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm convinced it's ending. My Heroes has now started its final war. I mean, we've already known for a while that it's in its final arc. It's it's reaching its climax sort of vibe, but the final war, the final battle actually started. So I mean, I really do think My Hero is going to end before this year is over. Which is big sad for me. I know you guys are just like, I mean, good run, whatever. But I really like My Hero. One Piece has been on a heater though. I will say that. Has it? Yeah. Josh cannot stop texting me right now about how incredible it is. Well, and I agree, it is on a heater, but Josh is like, I'm borderline like concerned for his health because I feel like he could have a heart attack at any moment.
Is the war anywhere close to being finished?
I would say, yeah, it's pretty close. There's a lot of fights that have been wrapping up. There's only a few fights still left to go. Luffy's about to have a big ass moment in the next couple chapters. The chapter is coming out this weekend. Teases like a big thing for him, and the next chapter, I'm assuming you're going to get to actually see it. Okay. So it's going to be pretty hype. We did get another trailer for the Dragon Ball Superhero Worst Movie Name Ever trailer. Very heavily focusing on Gohan. Hey, Gohan and Trunks actually grown up, so that's cool. They didn't regress in age like they did from Z to Super. Bro, you compare them in Z and look at them in Super, I swear to God, Super's supposed to be further than Z, and I swear to God, I feel like they regressed in age. I really do. But they're actually grown up. They're actually teenagers. So that's actually...
Weren't they already teenagers?
No, because in Z, I would consider them maybe 8 to 10 years old, right? That's my assumption. I don't know. I don't remember the ages.
Did you say Goten and Trunks or Gohan and Trunks?
Goten.
Okay.
Goten. Yeah. So I may have said Gohan. If I did, I apologize. But I would you look at them in Z and you're just like, okay, yeah, you're probably 10 or 11 years old. But then I swear to God, you look at them in Super, it's like, are you a 5-year-old? I feel like they regressed, straight up. I really do. And everyone else does. But no, they're actual teenagers now, legitimate teenagers. They're tall. And they're teenagers. It's real this time. And they did tease in the poster from them doing the fusion dance. So maybe a teen Gotenks that we've never seen before. Outside of, I think, the Dragon Ball, Heroes or whatever. That fanfic of a series, it's that's actually reality. But it's basically just a giant fan fiction.
Okay.
JoJo Fighting Game also got announced yesterday. But it's a port from a PS3 game, apparently. I didn't know that.
That never came to West as far as I'm aware.
Yeah. So I saw a bunch of people on Twitter talking about it. It's like, oh, yeah, JoJo Fighting Game, let's go. Then realize it's a PS3 port. It's like, damn it.
I mean, it has the full cast of characters that were released, though.
That's true. 50-plus characters I saw for the roster. It's a pretty beefy roster.
Yeah, that's a beefy roster.
That is a beefy roster, man. That's actually pretty impressive, especially for a single IP game. You know what I mean? That is pretty impressive. But yeah, lots happened this past month. I
was about to say, one thing we should also mention is the fact that Crunchyroll and Funimations have been fully merged, and they're now going strictly under Crunchyroll.
Yep. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah, that went down here recently. We've been expecting it for a while, ever since the purchase happened, and that is official. And you've already started to be able to see like the Funimation catalog come onto Crunchyroll. There's still some that's not on there because I noticed, like, for example, Tribe 9 wasn't.
Yeah, it's mostly just backlog of stuff.
Yeah.
Like anything that's currently airing is still strictly just on Funimation at the moment. It's just completed series at this point in time that's moved over to Crunchyroll.
Yeah, and that does make me. It does make me kind of curious how they're going to handle like current airing shows. Is Funimation still going to be able to get rights to stuff, or is it going to be like just Crunchyroll now? Like, are they going to fully merge?
Well, from the last article I read at the time, it seemed like it was going to be a full merge because at this point in time, Funimation subscription and everything are being cut off. No longer be a thing as far.
Has that happened to you yet?
I honestly don't know. I haven't paid attention.
Okay. It may have, actually, because I did jump on your Funimation a couple weeks ago because I was going to show Jared the Dragon Ball Z fight from Tribe 9.
Gotcha.
To show him Tribe 9 hype. And I did notice when I logged in that it said something about your account. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to leave that alone. Let him take care of that. But I did notice it said something about like error with your payment or whatever.
Oh, that was something else.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. Well, it might still be happening soon.
Yeah, but at least the last article I read, which is a couple weeks old, so some news may have changed, but at the last time I read up on anything, it seemed like Funimation was more or less going to be almost fully absorbed into Crunchyroll. They didn't outright say that Funimation was going to be completely stopped, but any Funimation subscriptions would more or less transfer into a Crunchyroll subscription, and that would work for both as far as I was aware.
I wonder if that also means that Crunchyroll will once again like revamp their membership tiers, because I think they have 3 right now.
Yes.
So I wonder if they'll maybe revamp those again and do something with a higher tier.
Possibly.
Because I feel like the higher tiers, unless you're like a big fan of Crunchyroll Shop, the higher tiers are kind of worthless.
Yes and no. I mean,
one of them lets you download episodes, right? To view offline.
If we're talking just strictly streaming, then just having a base membership, paid membership, is probably the best thing you can get because it's just no ads and you get early access. The higher ones are more or less, besides Shop, also it automatically enters you into like sweepstakes and contests for free shit every month.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
So with the higher tiers, like I think the next tier, second tier is like 1 or 2 entries, and the next tier up is like 3 or 4 entries, and then there's also contests specifically just for those tiers and up. So, I mean, if you have one of those and you actually pay attention to that stuff, you could have been getting a lot of free shit.
Oh, well, I didn't know that. I'm not on a higher tier. Are you just on the base?
I'm on the second tier.
Oh, okay. I want to say one of them, like I mentioned, lets you download episodes. Yes. Is it the second tier or is it third?
Third tier, I believe.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, I'll be curious. Keep an eye out for the subscription stuff. I'll be kind of curious to see if Crunchyroll does another revamp for it, and in some capacity, do something. Because if they are going to fully merge, I'm curious. Like, I guess like the ongoing shows that Funimation has will also just be on Crunchyroll. So
I would assume so.
Yeah, just something to keep an eye out for. All right, so let's go ahead and just jump into our topic today. Once again, it is what makes an anime or manga good? What makes it worth watching, reading, and most importantly, what makes it worth coming back to? Because we all have a series or series that we love to just come back to, reread, rewatch, whatever, like a comfort anime, whatever. And this is a very interesting topic because it's such a wide and broad topic where it's like it has such a simple answer and simple answers to give you more context, but then it's just like that's where it's like the answers, the opinions for those answers is what's going to be different.
Yes.
And everyone's going to have a different opinion because I give you that topic, right? And everyone with a half a brain could be like, oh, it's very simple what makes an anime good. It's like, just be entertaining. That's step one. That's the most base, simple answer.
I would never give that answer.
That is the most, well, I saw a lot of people give that answer.
Really?
Yes. That is like the most simple base answer you could give is just be entertaining. Just entertain me and it's good. That's it. But then like you break it down further and it's like the next set of answers that I can give are also very generic that anyone could give, where it's like some quick ones that I pitched here is story direction and story concept. That's one thing, right? The cast of characters. Are they entertaining? Are they engaging? Are they relatable, right? Character development, world building, and then of course art style and animation, which I feel like that's just a nice touch. You know what I mean?
I was about to say those two, I mean,
that's a nice touches.
But they're really more for people who really focus on that stuff because there's tons of series I've watched where I'm not giving a shit about how they looked.
Yeah. And I'm with you on that. Now, obviously I've been very vocal about some series. Seven Deadly Sins, I'm looking at you, but that's not the point. That's a different conversation.
You're also on the front of the train for that, so.
Yes, I was. But like, diving into this further, it's like I can give you, and Zach and I can probably agree on those 5 things is what makes a series like good and worth watching. But it's like then that's when we get a little bit more into it, is when we start giving our opinions. But before we start jumping into our opinions, Zach, do you have anything else to add on to that, or do you feel like the 5 things that I quickly pitched is kind of like solid for it, or is there anything else that you would say before we start getting into details?
The other thing I would say that really makes a series that worth watching going back to is setting. Not necessarily world building itself, but actually keeping a consistent setting of atmosphere.
Right.
That makes you actually feel that the world itself is engaging, that you could just look at it even without the characters and whatnot.
Right. Okay, that's a very good one. Setting is a very good one. So 6 things basically is what we kind of have lined out here. Now let's kind of dive in a little bit further. Let's start with story direction, story concept. Zach, for you, what are some great examples of like a story direction or concept that's just automatically good and entertaining to you? Because like for me, it's very obvious from my catalog that I enjoy to watch. I'm big into shonen. I'm big into like those action shonens, like the drama that's behind it. Like that's what I'm big into. I enjoy some memes like anyone else. Okay, One Punch Man is a phenomenal fucking watch, but it's a giant goddamn meme, and and there's different aspects about that with One Punch Man that I'll dive into in this for a couple different topics. But like I'm big into like the really story driven series, like a Naruto, like a Full Metal Alchemist, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, or I would just say Full Metal Alchemist, the manga, since what Brotherhood is still to this day probably the best overall story I've ever experienced in anime and manga for me personally. So like what's like for you, what are some great examples of like good story direction and concept that really pulls you back or pulls you into a series?
Well, for me at this point, because I enjoy shonen myself, because that's really the type of stuff that pulled me in initially, stuff like that. But now at this point, with my choosing of stuff, I always get drawn in more in stories that have sort of a intellectual drive of not a character that just goes straight into things, but one who's actually very aware of the world and things like that. And more or less, it's a trek of intrigue, intellect, and drama versus training, strengthening, and fighting.
Right. So, just from kind of what you're talking about, I feel like, a good example there would probably be like a Death Note, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, which I agree with you. Death Note's a phenomenally written story.
Yes.
Phenomenally.
If I would have to give one example, like one series that's caught me recently is a manga called I Am an Evil God. Mm-hmm. And main character... it's an isekai, so true traditional. He gets killed by a truck, and
shout out to all the trucks out there.
Truck-kun.
All I think now is the otaku trucker.
Yeah, more or less, he gets reborn into another world as another version of himself, of course, who's bottom of the barrel. He's literally just been being drained. His life force been drained by this woman who's been literally fucking him to death. And more or less, so far, I'm like 60 chapters in now. It's literally him going from the bottom and using his cheat system very smartly. He's not just going out riot and going, I'm going to beat you. He's being tactful about it and using the system in a way. It's just like, this is what I need to do. They're going to fuck me up, so I'm going to do this.
Right.
And I'm probably going to use it again because when I got to one of the big plot points, it got fucking wild. Because this is sort of like the intellectual thing for me. It's just like there were hints throughout it, but I just didn't catch them at the time. So this entire time he's part of this sect and he's building up relationships and whatnot. And there's a slight civil war between the elders. And it gets to a big meeting of the elders because they're going to throw one of the elders on the bus for trying to upsert the matriarch leader. And it ends up being the elder the matriarch was teaming up with was actually a traitor. The matriarch they were going after was not a traitor. It got fucking wild because it went from she's following a plan to outright killing a witness, the other matriarchs, the other elders' lovers suddenly coming up in the middle of everything and saying, this happened, yada, 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 to starting a big fight, to all of them fighting, to eventually going, yeah, I'm a traitor. By the way, this other sect's here to kill us. And I went, what is this shit? And this happened within 5 chapters.
Jesus.
I was just like, this shit is getting wild.
Dude, yeah, it got wild quick.
But like, very, like fists were thrown, but it was all a thing of, there was pre-planned stuff here.
Right. Which the pre-planned stuff, like that's the stuff that fucking gets me. Like, so that's kind of interesting. I'm gonna have to look into that. You'll have to text me the name for that one. But yeah, like, dude, any sort of like pre-planned stuff or like, you know, like that overarching plot where it's like you have like the key plot going on, right? And you get like little hints and tidbits of different things. Then later on, it's just like all comes together and just hits you in the face of all this stuff that's been going on behind the scenes the whole entire time. Dude, I love that shit. Like, that shit is peak. And it's also why, like, you know, which, don't get me wrong, like, while it's just my personal favorite, I imagine even though it is very, like, universally, like, held as one of the better stories, that's one reason I've always loved Full Metal Alchemist, like, the actual manga and Brotherhood, because that is one of the big things about Brotherhood, is that overarching plot once you find out, like, all of these different bloodbaths that have taken place all throughout Amestris, is that the name of the country?
I don't remember.
I think it's like a Mestre or something like that, is all setting up to create one massive transmutation circle. And it's just like, if you've never watched Full Metal Brotherhood, I guess I just spoiled the story. But that's an old-ass series. You're on your fucking own.
I was about to say, at this point, if you haven't watched it, that's sort of on you.
Yeah, that's on you. Fuck you. But, you know, stuff like that gets me. Like, I absolutely love that. And, you know, it's the same thing with, like, let's say some Naruto, because Naruto kind of had the same vibes of different aspects. Like, you know, of course, where it's, like, literally chapter 1, you know, the first episode about the Hokage, the fourth Hokage, the Nine Tails, and then you get to see all that transpire again later. You know, you get all of these different little plot points involving, like, oh, you think it's Madara. No, it's actually Obito. It's actually alive. Spoiler, but again, that's on you. You know, yeah, that sort of stuff gets me, bro. Like, hardcore. Like, I'm a big fan of that shit. And Hitman Reborn has some vibes of that as well. You know, like, you know, the biggest thing about, like, Hitman Reborn, that, like, the overarching plan that just, like, just blew me away was in the future arc. Oh my God. That's still one of my favorite, like, plot twists of all fucking time. Of all time. Just because, like, but then again, I am very biased. I love the series. You know, I understand it's probably not one of the best ones of all time. I get that. That's on. It's just mine. Where it's like you find out this whole plan of how Suna and the gang all got sent to the future, all because of future Suna pairing up with Hibari and, drawing a blank on his name, red-haired dude.
I mean, I know you're talking about. Other people don't.
I know. I'm just drawing a blank on his name. Shoichi, maybe? I don't know. I may have said a completely wrong character, but either way, you find out like this entire plot where, you know, all Suna and all of his friends started getting blasted to the future was all just one big ploy. You know, and like this main antagonist that's been part of like the Mifori family this entire time, and it just seemed like a hard ass general, whatever, is actually part of, you know, he's side with the Von Gola, and he's actually really weak and kind of like, leave me alone. Bro, everything about that is just 10 out of 10 because like once you learn what it is and you start thinking back to like a few different concepts, right? Like, still one of my favorite moments in that series was, the night of the raid where they were going to raid the Mifori base, and it's just like that episode had like so much like drama and anxiety filled behind it because like you keep seeing all the shots of like Suna and the family all sleeping. You see the Mifori family coming in to bust into the base. You know, they all break. You know, it's just going back and forth between them sleeping, them breaking into the base, them sleeping, and it's just like, oh, shit's about to fucking get real. And then they break into the base, and they're just like in a wide open area. And mind, this is also like the end of the episode, so great close to the episode. And they're just like, what? Where the hell are we? We followed the tracker. And you see the hole they busted in just get like closed up with like cloud cages, whatever. And Hibari step up with the tracker and drop it and make some badass quote. You know, it's just like once you figure out like that the overarching plot was like, you know, this was all one big master plan. And then you think back to, you know, when Hibari knew that the tracker was there, that Hibari knew where they were going to be. And then also when he was fighting Phantom Knight and he kept on saying just like, God, I wish I could be the one to bite you to death. Like, he knew he was about to get swapped. Like, all of that. Peak. I love that sort of stuff with story direction.
I mean, story direction is great, especially when an author gets to go long enough to be able to do overarching things like that.
Bingo.
Which is an unfortunate thing with a lot of mangas. Like,
they get axed so quick.
And don't even get a chance to, like, where concept can become a lot more in favor in that, because like things like Red Hood, which came out this past at the end of last year, was really good. Its concept of using fairy tales and things like that for creatures and hunter was actually very interesting and very well done, seeing as they were doing the Grimm Brothers versions a lot of times.
Right.
And then the whole concept of everything's written in a soul book of everyone's fates and things was a very fantastic concept that never was able to come to full fruition. But a concept like that was fantastic. I really wish it got a chance to expand on it more, because they could have done quite a bit with that.
Yeah, because like the thing about Red Hood is it had a great concept. It had some interesting characters, and the art style was good. It was unique. You know, it gave you like more like a grungy sort of feeling, kind of like a JJK, right? But it just didn't get a chance. And you know, it's funny. I was talking about Red Hood the other day with Josh when I saw him, because he never finished it. Because obviously Red Hood only went like 15 chapters.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
And he's just like, you know, he said something about like, should he finish it? And I said, abso-fucking-lutely. Like, that may be a 15 chapter act series, but that has one of the best endings I've ever seen in a series.
It wouldn't. The author took it and just went, well, shit, I'm being canceled. All right.
Yeah, like the way I explained to Josh, like that is one of the best table flip fuck it moments I've ever seen. And it ends so interestingly because of that. But no, great concept. It just didn't get a chance to expand further.
And one of the more further things of a concept that did get to expand in a series that everyone knows and loves is like One Piece.
Yeah.
Its whole concept was literally just, hey, there's this treasure left by the Pirate King, and we have this young boy who aspires to be a pirate. This is his adventure to go get that treasure. And what, 30 years later?
Yeah,
something like that?
Well, maybe not 30, because didn't it may have started like what, 98?
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was like late 90s is when it started. Because One Piece normally doesn't get considered with the 90s big five, you know, because that's more of like the Ronio Kenshin, Yu Yu, Dragon Ball Sailor, and Saint Seiya. So, yeah, I think it's like 98, 99.
Okay. So, 20 years.
Yeah, 20-ish, yeah.
I think they actually just had it like 25th not that long ago, now that I think about it.
Yeah, they may have.
That was literally the initial concept, was just small child becoming a pirate. Big old treasure.
Yeah, basically.
And that's a concept that's expanded and given us some wild stuff throughout the years now.
In just One Piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also just the inspirations from it. I mean, let's look at Eden Zero. Hello. I mean, it's basically space One Piece in a way.
I mean, it really is.
I mean, yeah, dude, it is. Like, you know, just like you have this kid, he's got the dream to go find mother. Go in space, go be a pirate.
Well, his was actually a little bit different. He wanted
to be a friend.
He wanted to make friends, and there just happens to be this lady who can apparently grant any kind of wish in the world if you can find her.
Yeah. You know, still talking about story concept, like for me, I'm pretty easy to go with when it comes to story concept. Like, as long as the story concept is interesting in some capacity, you will at least hook me to start. You know, right? But then it's just like everything else, all these other checkpoints, like let's just say the story direction, like the concept can be cool, but how is the story direction to go to keep me in, and the characters, whatever, blah, blah. Because like when it comes to concept, bro, like, I mean, you look at some of the series that like I read or watch and like they're fucking stupid. Sabuki Bisco, like Mashal. Mashal's great, but Mashal's a stupid concept. Like, I mean, because it's basically Magic One Punch Man.
I mean, I'm probably in a bit of a deeper pool than you, because if you go through my stuff, my concepts that really drag me nowadays, if you look at my earlier stuff, it's mostly shonen-esque stuff of just very simple concept. This character, there's this big thing, they're going to go towards it. But nowadays, my concept is either isekai, which I very much enjoy isekai series just because they allow for interesting worlds and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And then the other one is just wild shit. Like, one of my big ones that I love to recommend to people is Bento.
Yeah, I knew you were about to say this.
The concept of this series is there's a freaking lunchbox club in high school, and they go to a supermarket. When it gets lunchbox, bentos get put at half price, and a bunch of high schoolers and I guess maybe college students, never really specifies, and some adults.
So maybe there may be some adults beating up kids.
Go fight for these bentos in the middle of a grocery store, and nobody stops them. None of the employees address it besides the person who puts the stickers. None of the other customers address it. There's just a bunch of delinquents beating the shit out of each other for half-price bentos.
Dude, the amount that he raves about Bento is unreal.
It's just a wild concept, but it's executed so well.
Right.
And then, like, another random ass series I've read before is, I believe it's called, like, Dungeon Meshi. And it's literally about a adventuring party who goes into a dungeon to save one of the party members' sisters. And through their adventures, they can't leave the dungeon because if they do, they're afraid that they won't get back in time and the girl will be eaten. So it's their adventures about how they defeat things. And the store partner they picked up manages to cook them. And it then becomes a story of them just eating different dungeon monsters throughout their adventure.
What?
Yes. Just go save this girl. And meanwhile, making the best gourmet book ever of all the dungeon monsters.
Yeah, the shit that you're deeper than me. I mean, I'll admit that. I would say like Sabugi Bisco is one of the wildest things I've ever sat down and actually watched and enjoyed. Like that is such a wild concept of a series.
Oh, I can't remember the series. I think the series is called Akane. It came back in the 2000s. It is a series. It's a battle series about soda pop girls who fight.
What?
Yeah, it's girls that come out of like drinks and they fight each other for a tournament.
So wait, hang on. Okay, all right, pause. Let's rewind a little bit. So they come out of the soda bottles. So like, do they have like a master that opens the bottle for them? Or like, is this like a tamer sort of series?
It's more of sort of like a genie in the bottle. The person who opens it, they technically fight for them.
I've heard of a lot of different tamer series, but I've never heard of one involving soda pop girls.
Yeah, there's some wild shit out there.
Jesus Christ. But bottom line is, when it comes to story concept, that's too deep of a topic to really dive into. Like, I feel like that could be an episode on its own.
I mean, it can.
Like, the main thing is like have a good story concept, but that's all, per person. Like, what's your interest? But story direction is one of the biggest things, because it's just like, where the hell are we going? What is the purpose? I mean, and there are a lot of series that can get away with having no purpose because that is the series. That's what the series is. But at the same time, having that purpose is what's going to help drive you forward and help keep people in. But again, there are going to be those series out there that literally don't have a purpose, and it's just like, let's just have fun.
Boys.
Yes. Yes. There is a lot of series out there that just don't have a purpose. And it's just like I have not read the series. I'm making a wild assumption here, but I'd probably say Me and Roboco probably does not have a purpose of the series. It's probably just there to have a good time.
I mean, it probably does.
Whatever it would be, couldn't tell you. I couldn't even begin to guess what it could be. It's just like to be the best Roboco made of all time. I don't know. I mean, I
think that might actually be a thing. I know.
It probably is. I don't know. But story directions, like, what is our purpose and how are we getting there? And how are we getting there? It's like, well, hopefully along the way, it's going to be because of a great cast of characters, because that'd be the next thing that's very important for a series. And this is one for me where it's like, you look around at some of the series that I enjoy, and you can very well see a theme that I enjoy a series that has like a wide cast of characters that are all like relevant. Mm-hmm. That's one thing that I really enjoy now. And it's kind of ironic because I said here, and I have said before openly that like Dragon Ball Z is one of my favorite series of all time. While they have a great cast of characters, there's really only like, mostly one. But there's only usually like 3 characters that are relevant. Still, even just mostly one character relevant, being Goku, of course. But they still have a great cast of characters, okay? You Hitman Reborn, great cast of characters. Yozakura Family, great cast of characters. Like, I'm a big fan, me personally, of having that wide cast, right? But really at the same time, it just comes down to like, who is our protagonist? Who is the other word that I just learned recently is a word that represents the secondary protagonist. Remember I told you about that? There's a word for it.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't remember what the word is. But I just learned the word recently. I'm not an intelligent person. But the secondary main character who's like the antagonist, stuff like that. Like having these really engaging, charismatic, relatable characters, that's what's going to really pull you in, especially the relatable part. Because like a lot for people to continuously go back and check out a series, it's usually for me assuming here for probably maybe 2 reasons. One, it's completely and utterly badass or hilarious, right? Or 2, it's a comfort series. Would that probably be about accurate? Is that it's just like, in comfort series just references like you just really love it and you just want to rewatch it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's probably the 2 reasons you're going to go back and rewatch a show, is that it's completely just badass, or you're just going to laugh your ass off, or it's just like your comfort series. Is that probably about accurate?
I mean, yeah, that's what probably a lot of people hit up. Because, I mean, a cast of characters is always very good. I'm probably on a slightly different angle than you. Cause,
yeah, you probably are.
You enjoy a lot of large cast of characters and focus. With me, I mean, I mostly read just for the story's sake and everything, so relatability is actually very low on my list. I don't necessarily care about the relatability of the characters to me personally in any form or fashion. I'm more of the camp of the characters being relatable to each other. So, like Dragon Ball, I've stopped watching Dragon Ball a long time ago just because, as you said, there's like maybe a few characters that are focused and like everyone else is sort of slightly relevant. And I could
shout out to all the Dragon Ball fans that remembers when Yamcha was relevant.
Shout out to all the Dragon Ball fans that remember
Watch
Yamcha's
Dragon
a thing.
Shout out to the Dragon Ball fans that know what Dragon Ball is.
You remember Master Jackie?
Yeah, Jackie Chun, let's go.
But my thing is more of a relatability to the main cast themselves. Because, like, there's a series out there called Peerless Dad that I've read, in which the main focus is on this warrior dad who has 2 children. He lost his wife. And more or less, he's trying to just make a living as a fighter for his kids and everything. And just seeing the relationships him and his 2 children it focuses on builds throughout this story and how it all relates to each other going forward. Mm-hmm. So I'm always pulled in more by actually having a rounded out cast that actually complements each other. I could care less if they're relatable to me. I'd rather than make a rounded story following all of them leading into whatever content it goes into.
And see, that's very interesting for you to dive into because it really puts me and you on such different perspectives, which is why I love this topic for an episode because like there's so many differing opinions. Because like while I do agree with you, having that concept where all the characters really complement each other, like that's dope. I am not gonna trash it, but like for me personally, I prefer characters that like I can really relate with, you know, because it becomes more of like a comfort show because of that. Like whatever they've gone through is similar to stuff that I've gone through or whatever, and it just becomes more comforting. So like that's a very interesting how different you and I are on that. Because like I said, I agree with what yours is 100%. Like that's great for a cast of characters. But with your cast of characters as well, I feel like one of the main points, and I've got a great example for this that we have talked about on end since last year, of a series that has such an interesting concept but such a weak cast of characters is Platinum End. I mean, Platinum End, like, dude, let's be real. Platinum End is a phenomenal, interesting concept.
Its story and concept is very well done.
But the characters, like the fact that I am more invested as like a watcher, like not in the relatable sense, but just like, you know, of how charismatic he is to our main antagonist, who is a complete piece of shit, than our protagonist. Like, I feel like that says something because like we've been saying it nonstop that Mirai, our protag, it's just such a boring character. And look, there are parts about him that are relatable for me, but like I guess the problem with like let's say Mirai, and I've got more examples of this as well, is that, and this actually kind of flirts with our next topic, so I guess we can kind of talk about both topics at the same time here if we want, which is character development, is there's no character development really with Mirai. It's very little. You know, we see some development where, you know, Nai's like, oh man, he used the white arrow. You know, oh, he used the red arrow to shoot someone.
Oh, he actually shot at somebody.
Yeah, it's like, oh, look at him go. Like there is some, but there's very little, obviously. And that makes for a stale character, which could potentially make for a stale series if it's our protagonist, especially. Another great example from a series that I hold very near and dear to my heart would be Dragon Ball with Goku. Goku never changes. The only way that he changes is he gets stronger. He goes through all these power-ups, but at the end of the day, Goku is Goku, which in that case does work for him because of how he is being like this complete doofus, you know, throughout the whole series, more or less. Like it's funny and it's charming, but even now, hardcore Dragon Ball fans, I feel like can agree to me when I say this, that like Dragon Ball, like while it's entertaining because it's like high stakes, super cool, flashy battles and stuff like that, it's gotten stale over the years. Like been kind of stale for a while because it's rinse and repeat of the same thing because our characters never change. Because like when it comes to Dragon Ball, just talking about that specifically, you know, we had our character developments with Vegeta and Piccolo, which was both phenomenal, right? You know, Vegeta still continues to have character development. You know, Piccolo's peaked. He's peaked.
Piccolo went from main antagonist to suddenly ally without anyone noticing.
Yeah, I mean, like, and he peaked in terms of his character development, right? Vegeta, I still feel like to this day in the Dragon Ball Super manga, still continues to grow and develop as a character. Meanwhile, Goku's Goku, which, like I said, you know, is not terrible in his case because he is a charming character that is funny. You know, there are different aspects about him that are cool, but it's just like, you know, we hold so much nostalgia for Dragon Ball, and that's what still keeps it super awesome. But like even me as a diehard Dragon Ball Z fan can take a step back and realize that like where we are now with like, let's say Super, with the new Super movie, the Super manga, whatever, especially someone who's reading the Super manga monthly and gets kind of frustrated by it, like, yeah, shit's like stale, you know, because there is not a lot of development besides power-ups. More and more, like what other power-up can we pull out of the ass? You know, it's just there is no development, which I feel like, you know,
ego.
Yes, yeah, it's like I call this ultra ego, and I'm like, oh my god, really? Come on.
You know, speaking of that, like going slightly back to cast characters, I was actually explaining some of the stuff you said about Super to someone else who's knows Dragon Ball Z, but nothing about Super, and I tried to explain them the whole cereals.
The cerealins, yeah.
and they were just like, what? And I was like, yeah, this is what's happening currently in the Dragon Ball. Yeah. And just, that's one of those things of these, along with needing a good cast characters, naming is important.
Yeah. Well, look, if it wasn't for like how just like legendary the series is, Toriyama wouldn't be able to get away with that.
I mean, he wouldn't.
He wouldn't be able to get away with it.
Able to get away with it amazes me.
I feel like he's one of the only people on the planet that can get away with shit like that, though. Like he really is. Maybe like I would say like maybe him and Oda would not be the only people that can get away with it.
And probably Kubo as well.
Yeah, Kubo. Yeah, well, Kubo don't give a fuck. Kubo's gonna do what he wants.
He made another entire series that's apparently in the Soul Society universe, but it's not in Soul Society.
Yeah,
and everyone's confused about it.
Hey man, that volume 1 sold phenomenal.
I tried to explain that to the same people as well that Burn the Witch was in the Bleach universe, and they wouldn't believe me.
Really? Because
there's nothing in that series that hints that is part of that, but that's a different story for another day.
Yeah, we'll dive into that another time. But you know, overall, when it comes to like cast of characters, like wide cast is cool, cast that's relatable with each other is cool, cast that's relatable with you is cool, but like, you know, I feel like you got to have, you know, whoever your protagonist is. I mean, your protagonist has got to be engaging in some capacity. It's got to be, or you're going to have a situation like Platinum In, which is such a great concept that fell short because of our protagonist.
I was about to say, you either need a very strong protagonist or you need a secondary support character or antagonist or something to help carry that protagonist, to allow that protagonist to sort of have that back and forth with.
Right.
Which we got that a little bit with Platinum In with our, I forget his name Metropolitan, who really carried that show and allowed that series to at least be interesting and animated. I still don't know how it was as a manga, seeing that I still have never read the manga.
Yep, same.
And things like that. But Metropolitan really carried that sort of first half of the relationship of battle between himself and Mirai.
Yeah. And, you know, when it comes to, like, the protagonist, man, like, if they are just really that engaging and that charismatic, you get pulled in quick. Because, like, a good example, this just popped in my head. While I have not caught up on the manga, like, me and you both were engaged pretty quickly because of how charismatic our protag is, and that's Ron Kurameshi, Deranged Detective.
Yeah.
Like, I think you read the first chapter before me, which, by the way, that series is in Jump Plus by Akira Yamano, the creator of Hitman Reborn, for everyone
still
that doesn't
know. Still great. It's still going strong.
And, like, I think you read it before me, and you're just like, bro, this guy, our protag is a fucking nut.
Yes. I think that was actually my exact words.
I think it was. He's a fucking nut, bro. And I agree, he is, because like in the first chapters, you're getting you like the first page, beautiful color page, of where he's like the successful detective, and then it's like right after that, then it's immediately like where he is now sort of vibe. And when he kind of gets into it, like dude's like laying down beside the day, he's like, tell me what happened. Like this dude is insane, but it pulls you in. Yeah, that's the thing. Like those sort of characters, dude, they pull you in. And then of course, naturally, characters that are like the underdogs will always pull people in. I feel like unless they were just boring as shit, an underdog will always pull you into a series. Deku being a good example, Naruto, Asta, from Black Clover, like, Denji from Chainsaw Man. Chainsaw Man's fucking whack though. That's a different topic for a different day. I'm not going to dive into that one. That's what created the...
What the is this chapter?
Yes.
And that we'll use when the anime comes out.
What the did I just watch?
Chainsaw Man created all of those. Underdogs, man. Underdogs will pretty much always pull people in as long as they're entertaining characters in some capacity.
And I mean, I would agree with that because there's sort of to finish it up, just initial compelling. Like, if you look back at series like One Piece, the very first scene with Luffy is him literally popping out of a barrel, knocking two people out, and just immediately catching the audience and going, okay, this seems like an interesting character. Why is he in a barrel? Why was he able to knock these two people out almost instantly?
Right.
Things like that. Versus there's the other aspect of it of sort of a slow burn character building up, Light Yagami from Death Note.
Yeah.
You don't initially really care for Light during the first, but as he gets the notebook and progresses, you really start to build with Light and everything.
Right. Next thing that we had up was the world building, which so when it comes to like all these things that we talked about, like, like setting, you touched on whatever, development, character cast, story, direct concept. I feel like those all carry the weight primarily.
Yes.
I feel like world building and dead last would be art style and the animation. Those would be like dead last in a series. Those are just nice things. I do feel like world building is important because I feel like there is a nice fine line between, having just the right amount of world building to pair up with your story concept and story direction. And then there's times where there's too much world building, which we've seen before with Samurai 8, The Tale of Hachimichi. I think Hachimaru, which was Kishimoto's follow-up manga after Naruto. And this thing was hyped, right? He was hyping it up. It's like, this is my best work yet. This is going to be better than Naruto. Jump pushed the fuck out of this, and it only made it, I think, like 40 chapters, and they axed it because it wasn't selling, wasn't resonating. And the reason why is because you look at Samurai 8, Tale of Hachimaru, you look at Naruto, and you look at two very different approaches of series, where Naruto was very heavy on the story direction and world building came with it. Samurai 8 was very in your face about world building, and story was kind of behind it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
World building is super important to help establish where you are. And I feel like that's going to be more of an important thing if you have a series in a fictional world or in a world that has a lot of fictional aspects to it. If you're just like some sort of like slice of life romance, you don't need world building. You're just, they're teenagers or
they're
adult.
in high school.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. You don't need a lot of world building. But like anything that's going to be super heavy fictional, like the Narutos, like the Dragon Balls, the Black Clovers, the My Heroes, whatever, which My Hero is based on, Earth and, Japan, whatever.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It has those, those aspects of heroes and quirks and whatever. World building is tremendously important for those series, but there is a time where there is like too much world building.
I was about to say, we've actually seen it a lot more over the past decade or so, where world building coming first has actually been somewhat successful, and a lot of those have been in isekai series or VR MMOs where they create this whole fictional world and like this is what exists and everything, and then drops the characters into it and things like that. Versus what's still popular and was popular is having characters and having the world naturally build along with their story,
Right.
which it's still more successful of the two, in my opinion, at least from what I've seen and things like that. And more that resonates with me is it feels more natural in the story where the world grows and what the characters and whatnot as well, and just
as things become relevant.
Yes, versus just outright world building. There is several series that do that have been able to do it properly and things like that. Where like one series I go to, Overlord, that it actually has a fair amount of world building and things like that, and then the characters in it. But it's sort of a thing of, they do it real well of it's as I can't think of his name at the moment, but our Overlord, Skeleton, Mage Master, learning, getting information about the world, and naturally making the relevant thing of he's sending out people to learn information. When they get it, it then expands on the world, and it has this whole world building that's relevant for that time and place.
Yeah, and you breaking that down in phenomenal detail. I got to hammer it with you, because I mean, like, that is like on point, so accurate for like the best kind of world building. Because like if you come in like the first like few episodes or first chapters and just throw it in my face, like the entire world being built right here, right now, I'm gonna forget half the shit you just explained to me by the time it pops back up and becomes fucking relevant again. World build around you what's relevant, and that helps you pulls you into the story more, keeps things more natural. Because we've seen that in a lot of series, like let's say the Naruto. Like, Naruto's world was being built when it became relevant in the situation.
And because when the series initially started, literally our world was just Konoha.
Yes.
We knew there was other nations, but as far as we were concerned, they were nothing.
Yes. Black Clover the same way. Even Full Metal Alchemist, same way. We were heavily focused in like one region, then there was another country where Ling came from, got brought into stuff. World build as we go. Don't just throw it in our face. And that's a concept that I feel like what you're saying, where it makes this story feel more natural, is so important. Because I've mentioned this a couple times on the series on AniMan Plus before, but I've been an inspiring manga writer for many years. Right, like I have a series that I've personally worked on for a very long time. And I actually recently kind of brought Zach into the project, told him about the first part of it. And, I feel like you can agree with me that one of my main things that I focused on was like the world building, where it's like, I kept, as I'm telling you the story, it's like, okay, now we're going to introduce this place. Now we're going to introduce this place because now it's relevant. Yeah. And I feel like that makes the story feels more natural moving forward.
But before we get on, there is exception to this. There's like one series that's done it well, that was able to world build first and then bring us our cast of characters, which is a very new series, and one that I jumped on and was like, yeah, this will be good, was Elusive Samurai.
That's true.
Elusive Samurai.
A lot of world building.
Elusive Samurai, the first 15 well, maybe not 15, but a good 10 chapters.
I'd say 10,
yeah. Was not very focused on characters. It didn't mention key characters, but it was actually a lot more of explaining the sort of time period and whatnot for the reader, of setting up what was going to happen, just because it's not exactly a time period that's hit on a lot. So it sort of did this, several chapters of mainly world building with our characters walking through it, which led us into our big event that has now led us to a series that is very popular and actually very good.
Yeah.
And our very freaky child lord.
He's into some weird stuff.
He's going to be into some kinky shit.
But no, you're right on that series, bro. Because me and Josh both, we were very we were wanting to jump off. Josh did jump off. Josh got off quick. I stuck with it with you because you kept saying, it's like, oh, I'll just give it time. And it's true. I feel like even Jump, obviously, you realize that
pushing it so hard.
They were number one pushing it hard, but then also think about how long it fucking took them to release Volume 1, where they did not release Volume 1 until they had enough chapters to release Volume 1 and then Volume 2 in back-to-back months.
Yeah.
If that does not tell you how even they felt towards the beginning of the world-building series and then where it could go, I don't know what does. They knew that the start was kind of slow and kind of rough. But no, that is a good example of a series that does it very well and succeeds at it. And still talking about the world building thing, I'd feel terrible if I didn't mention this series in terms of the natural progression. 86 does that very well, where it's we are focused on what's relevant. And now with the season 2 and with other light novels that I have gone through and that other people have already read, I think there's 11. I think the 11th volume just came out recently. Mm-hmm. That series does a very good job on the story direction, keeping you on the rails and building the world as you go, where what's relevant is what's relevant.
Yeah.
So I'd feel terrible if I didn't mention that one, because that is one of my favorite series of all time. I absolutely love 86, which also that series has some very good character development with our protagonist Shin as well. That is one of those. That's one of those series where it's you have a very kind of almost in a way stale character because of how monotone he is, but I don't, when I say stale, I'm not calling him stale. It just at first glance kind of appears like it. And then as you start to like dive into the first few episodes, like first 2 episodes, 3 episodes, whatever, and starts figuring out like, okay, yeah, all this shit's kind of fucked up. Then you start to realize more about why he is the way that he is.
And I mean, that's also a good example of having the counterbalance, because he was very stale, but we had Major Waifu, who was his counterbalance, who
Lena.
She was very emotional, sort of ready to do things and whatnot. And then also
trying to break down his walls.
Yes, and also our other members of the Spearhead, who were much more animated and things about that, sort of help counterbalance his Shin's mooding.
Yeah, which, you know, as further developed, like now in season 2, where you're starting to see him, you know, even right at literally the first episode, you start to see a different Shin, where like he kind of like fucked with Frederica's hair, whatever, stuff like that. And then like, you know, one of the later episodes where like he was talking to Frederica and talking about how like he's just everyone's reaper and everyone's going to leave him behind, like that fear that he had of it, whatever. Like, you know, that's the sort of shit that we live for. And also, I want to just give this a special shout out. We don't have to dive into it, but it's just another example of unbelievable character development. You know, not an anime. We kind of consider an anime. Zuko from Last Airbender. That's some phenomenal character development. I got to shout it out. Just shout out, you know. We're not going to dive into that one, though. We'll move on to the next one, which is the final one, and really the least important one. It is important, you know, as long as it's like good for the series, I would say. And like not a step down from maybe where it once was. Looking at you, Seven Deadly, it's not a big deal. It's really not, and that's art style and animation. I mean, when it comes to like if you're reading a manga, the art style is always going to be just like that's something we will always hammer on. It's like, oh, dude, this art is phenomenal. Like Elusive Samurai, dude. Even at chapter 1, we're like, bro, this art is incredible. Like immediately we're hammering that.
Even though the world building was started first, the art of Elusive Samurai was fantastic.
Oh, I mean, it was amazing.
And I mentioned at the beginning of this that, I mean, I'm not the biggest person for art and animation, but there is a balance. Because, like, in a heavy action series, you're going to expect a lot of panels that sort of feel like sharp during fights, or if, like, there's a big hit or something like that, then we always get our nice wide panels to really show stuff off, like standstill, suspense, and things like that. Yeah, which are always done very well on the art side. And the art becomes down to a very much thing of balance and framing, and just like if you had a bit of a wide open shot, but like how one half was empty and the other half had the 2 characters, you'd sort of just be like, why the hell's this other half empty? Yeah. And if it doesn't do anything with it, you're just sort of like, what was the point?
Yep. And when it comes to like just like the animation, like bro, like the animation, you know, while yeah, it would be cool if like every anime had like a, you know, a Demon Slayer level animation or like a One Piece level animation of today. Like that would be, yeah, of course, that'd be cool, right? But it doesn't need that. Not every series needs that. They really don't. You know, I've already mentioned a couple times, you know, Seven Deadly, they went from having, I'm not going to say like top tier animation the first 2 seasons, but pretty good animation to what we got in the last 2 seasons, which is why I'm so critical about it, because it's just like of how much of a downgrade it was. Like if, you know, even if we would have had the same animation for seasons 3 and 4 throughout the whole series, I would still mention it like, yeah, this looked bad, but I don't think I would harp on it near as much as I do because of the downgrade that we went from, right? Yeah. But examples of like animation that I want to shout out that honestly, I'm not going to say a majority. I'm definitely not going to say a majority, but a decent chunk of people are very critical of, even though it's very unique and visually appealing, is some of the animations in Black Clover when shit's popping off. Like, people are actually pretty critical about it at times. Like, you know, when Asta first went black mode, like that whole fight, which, by the way, that fight's not in the manga. So if you're an anime-only viewer, you guys were eating for that episode. In the manga, it was a one-shot. He transformed, he one-shot him, all happened in a chapter. So enjoy that episode. I know you're a little critical of the animation, but I thought the animation was very unique, and it really set the tone that something else was like this was an intense moment. You know what I mean? Because the same thing, like we always joke about, especially me, when that intro music starts playing in the middle of the episode, you know shit's about to pop off. Because that's an anime fact. Yeah. And that's how I feel with some of those like wild animation sequences. And let's say Black Clover, even JJK had some of it as well. Like when they were doing like the dual black flash and stuff like that. Some of the stuff like Toto and everything. Like the animation was very unique, very different.
Or one of the more recent ones also, Black Clover, was the Oster Yami fight against I forget his name. Dante. Yeah. That animation was very sharp and nice, and the whole fight and things like that. even to the final shot of Yami throwing his sword to Asta, or my new favorite meme picture at that time was Zoro throwing the sword.
Oh yeah, it's like, Zoro, how'd you get there? Zoro always gets lost. Those are some of my favorite memes of where Zoro is just like casually put into some location because he got lost getting there. Those are 10 out of 10. But you know, when it comes to like the art style and stuff, like, yo, there is a nice balance of where you can have like very clearly like poorly drawn art and it's effective in a situation. Mashal's a good example of it. Mashal has a lot of those moments, like, you know, where Mash is just being stupid, where he's just Mash, where he's like, oh, okay, what, you know, whatever. Like the drawing style of it is very blocky and cartoony, and that adds to just the moment and the character and the comedy factor. Like that is fine, that is passable.
Or one of the big things, Demon Slayer, when it goes from serious and close, and then suddenly they're all chibis.
Yes, which I love those moments so much. Those are so great. Like those moments are fine. Like you insert those, like I don't think anyone's going to harp on that. All right. Now, even talking about a series, like if you establish from the get-go, like, yo, this is your style, this is how we're doing things, like it's all good. Like you can ride with it. Cause I'm going to give an example. And I feel like giving this example in a way is like, I feel like it's kind of like firing shots in a way at this series. And I'm not trying to fire shots at it because I fucking love this series. Zach loves this series. Our other friend Zach loves this series. I ain't trying to fire shots. All right. But I do want to give an example because I feel like even though you know, it's almost going to feel like I'm hating on it, I feel like even you can agree that, okay, some of the others, like you know, that we read, that we compare it to, like the art style is so drastically different and more detailed, is Unordinary. Unordinary, phenomenal story, incredible characters, incredible character development. But like, yo, you compare that art style, which by the way, I want to stress, I'm not trying to shit on it. It's very good. It's better than anything that either of us could probably ever come up with. I'm just going to say it up front. But you compare it to, like, let's say other series that's in like the same sort of genre on Webtoon that we like to read, like well, this isn't on Webtoon, but Solo Leveling, or especially a Weak Hero, and fucking Donald that's where all the budget went towards
Donald's fucking tattoos.
Yeah, that's where all the budget's at for detail. You know, got a high school, which even got a high school has the chibi moments, of course, those are great. But like, you know, you look at Unordinary and you compare it to like some of the other webtoons that we read, in which I understand these are just like, you know, self-employed artists. I get it. You know, and again, I'm not trying to hate on Unordinary's, you know, artists, whatever, but you look at that art style and you compare it to the others, you can see like the level of detail, which Unordinary has its level of detail. Don't get me wrong. Like they do a really good job with some of the abilities, the way the eyes look, shit like that. But like, dude, I feel like you can agree with me. Like the art style is lacking compared to others. It's still good, but lacking compared to others. But because that is well established, that this is the series, this is the art style, and because of everything else about it, with story direction, the uniqueness of like the abilities, the character development of John, whatever, that's what really pulls you in, where you can overlook that art style.
Well, I think that's not even like even that. I mean, in terms of just sharpness, yes, it would be lacking, but I feel like that's also a selling point of Unordinary. It's just it lacks that sharpness, and I mean, honestly, it sort of fits in a sort of good thing that Uruchan went with that, just because that sharpness and whatnot of most webtoons you sort of expect and things like that, and you can sort of know what you're going to get, where with Unordinary, it lacks that sharpness, and it has a duller feel to it, which sort of draws you in more. It actually makes, whenever, like the first time you see abilities, or the first time Arlo fights John, or the first time John actually uses ability, it really hits more with those, because if you notice, those are actually slightly sharper with the edges and whatnot, following the lights and everything, and really allows for those scenes to actually impact more.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I wasn't trying to shit on Unordinary at all. I'm just trying to give an example of, like, you know, I could pull an example from like, you know, Weekly Shonen Jump. That's the same way. Cause I mean, if I had to immediately pull an example, you know, I may immediately pull Mashal, because Mashal is always that same art style of where it's like, it's meant to be more kind of blocky, right? That's the point. And the Mashal's art's great, you know, especially when it's like, you've got those dope pages that are very well drawn, like that really deliver the moment, like what you're saying. Like, again, I'm not trying to shit on either series. I'm just pointing out a fact that is the the style for it. And if that's the style for it, that helps draw you in, right? There's a very large difference between the style approach and it just being bad art. That's obviously a very large gap. You know, in terms of like, you know, the art style and direction, another good series to kind of point out that fits really well for it is JJK, the manga. Like, while the animation, like the anime is awesome, obviously. The anime like was so beautifully animated. Everyone's like dick hard about it. If you've never read the manga is like, it's a very grunge sort of style. Like, that's the best word that I can think to describe it, where it's like the style for it, it almost feels like there are times where it's like, it almost seems like a sketch in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is the style for it, and it works. And I remember us talking about a while ago when JJK went on was like a 2-month hiatus or whatever because of the curator's health. There was that it was one of the last chapters. It wasn't the last. It was like a chapter before it went on hiatus. That chapter was very clearly not finished. Yes. And a lot of people tried to say, oh, that's just the style of JJK. No, in that case, that was very clearly panels that was not done flat out, and they just released the chapter. But like that style where it almost seems like a constant sketch, I mean, it works really well for JJK because it just adds to like the grittiness of the series.
In which, besides that one chapter that looked really rough, they actually incorporated it slightly into a couple chapters after that, which were actually very nice for it. Yeah. It was sort of a little off-putting just because of what we were used to, but at the same time, it did actually work for them at that time.
Yep. Yep, for real. Anything else you want to shout out for art style and animation?
Not for art style and animation, but the one thing I do still want to hit on was just general setting.
Yes. Okay, sure.
In general setting, because like if we go back to sort of concept and things like that, general setting actually plays a big point into, especially for me, of what like stories like back to concepts of like Red Hood and the whole fairy tale thing, and they specifically chose a fantasy world and whatnot like that, and it worked for that setting. But try and think of that fairy tale world, and if they put that setting in like a sci-fi, how do you think that would have done?
Not as well, not good.
So I mean, so a setting really plays in that of helping world development and concept of like, and like another one like of One Piece, of this big thing in an adventure. It works so far for pirate and space, but a thing like that. What if you had that setting and put it in like, what was that weird series you were watching that with the ridiculous names?
Oh, Sakugan.
Yeah, Sakugan.
Those names were fucking weird.
And like taking that concept of you have your main character and there's this big treasure, but now it's in a subterranean world.
See, and you know that I'm glad you mentioned that. I wasn't even going to think about that. Shout out to Zach. That concept, that setting, you can vouch for me. That's what pulled me in to even watch the series. Because like when I read about the concept before it started, my questions were, why are we underground? You know, why are we down here? This is an interesting concept
and setting because it's a subterranean world, and you don't get that often.
No, it's different. And I feel like even like the setting, which this I don't know if I'd necessarily call it setting. This more flirts with like just the story concept. I was going to mention Takop, but that's more story concept, wouldn't it? More so than setting.
But I mean, so they sort of coincide because like the concept of Takop is the whole fact of that there's these music arts that, from what I got, are pieces of music that more or less come to life as a female human beings that can fight these D2s, but setting of it is more or less modern apocalypse. But even with that same concept, that setting would probably also work in like a sci-fi realm, possibly of high fantasy, but wouldn't necessarily work for Western.
Right. Yeah.
Imagine that in a Western setting.
Oh, I wonder how much it would have grabbed us.
I was about to say, it would have been a little bit more Asian.
And with the setting as well, one thing that I think is also, I'm not going to say it's super important, but it's still just like, okay, that's great. That's nice to see, is like when our series, our show is progressing and we see the setting progress with it.
And which is a good thing because like another one I was going to like, God of High School.
Yeah.
That setting has changed drastically over the years.
Bro, yes, it has.
We went to some weird high school fighting like high school university fighting tournament to we're transitioning fucking worlds now.
Yes. Yeah, dude, if you've only seen the God of High School anime and you haven't bothered to read the webtoon, bro, this shit's so different.
So, like, I always like to touch on setting because it's sort of something that's missed a lot about versus, like, constant world, because setting sets a very significant tone because as soon as you know, well, it's a modern world, so I can expect these things, sci-fi.
Yep. Technology,
fantasy,
whatever that's going to be.
All that fun stuff and everything like that versus Noblesse.
Oh, dude, I was just about to mention Noblesse before we finish things up. Thank you.
And
you read my fucking mind.
We have the initial setting of modern day Korea.
Yep.
But we slowly end up going into super secret island of vampires.
Yep, in the Bermuda Triangle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To place where all these werewolves live. And
Yep.
I'm just like, remember Korea, guys?
Yeah, I remember everything happening there. Shit, how times have changed. Remember when, what's his name, Shinwoo?
Yeah, when he was relevant.
Yeah, I remember when he was going to, like, look like he was going to be, like, a main character.
Remember when he seemed like he was important?
Yeah, I remember those days.
And then we met Rai and went,
oh.
go away, Shinwoo.
Yeah. I still wish Shinwoo could have been more. Shinwoo was so cool. I love Shinwoo. But no, dude, yeah, setting, you're right. It sets the tone. It sets the tone. It helps you understand where you're going, and, in terms of setting, like another example, and this is a good one of setting and world building, right? Would be like Rising the Shield Hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, season 2 is about to pop off here soon. That very quickly establishes the setting and then it starts kind of just building the world as we go. And that's another great example of the world building being natural because it only puts things in your face that are relevant because that's how season 1 went and that's how the light novels and the manga has gone since is you get to explore these other nations or worlds or whatever as the series goes on and shit becomes relevant. I mean, that's one of the main things about season 2 is he's going to another country. I think is what it was, right?
Yeah.
That's the entire place of season 2. So
and the very interesting thing was just concept setting of high fantasy.
Yeah.
And I always like to look at Shield Hero and go, how do you think that would have done in a let's say feudal Japan?
Oh, I think it still would have been interesting, but I don't think near as interesting as what it is.
I think it would have still been interesting, but I feel like we would have gone in much different transitions.
Yeah, for sure. Let me think about this for a sec. Do we want to shout out Tokyo Avengers in any capacity for any of these topics? Because that's one that obviously swept the world last year.
I would say character development because character development. And
after this latest chapter. That's some character development.
Yeah. I would say Tokyo Revengers probably does not have the most unique concept. It probably has, in terms of most popular, that concept by
That's
just
true.
how it's taken over the world.
Yep.
But I mean, there's tons of delinquent mangas out there that which hit harder on that concept of things like that. But in terms of Tokyo Revengers, it has very good cast of characters, character development, and just overall. I guess it does have a point in concept of not necessarily on the delinquent gang side of the concept, but the transitioning time periods concept.
Yeah. Hey, another legendary series that we can shout out here, just based on multiple topics here, is Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yu Yu Hakusho, it establishes the world, in a relevant way pretty quickly. It has, you understand the setting pretty quickly. Great cast of characters.
I mean, compelling MC.
Yeah.
Just our little first shot is I'm dead.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
And shit. It had slow inklings of isekai. When you think about it, he gets hit by a freaking car, then goes to the freaking spirit world.
Immediately.
God dang it, Yu Yu Hakusho.
I know. Another great example of establishing setting is, of course, Inuyasha.
I don't know. That one's debatable to me.
Well, you also say because you're just you've been unfortunately in the Yashahime train.
Yeah.
I feel like Inuyasha does pretty well establishing the setting.
World, yes. Setting, yeah. I'm on the fence about that one.
Okay. I can
And this is just me, a personal beef. It might actually, but this is just a personal beef with me.
that's well, you have been deep in the rabbit hole of Yashahime, unfortunately. You poor bastard. the only one of us three that actually finished season 1, and you're pretty much mostly done with season 2. So
season 2's actually ended, I believe now.
Okay, well that's good. It's one less thing for you to have to worry about. So let's. I guess we can go ahead and wrap up the show now. I got a pretty good. We actually went a lot longer than I thought we would. Yeah. And the sad part is we've gone a lot longer than I thought we would. I stone cold thought this was gonna be like a 40-minute episode. Like,
oh, I didn't.
I really was like, oh yeah, we can probably bust it out in 40 minutes. No big deal. Is there any other series that you want to shout out to, or any other or any other ideas, or whatever you want to shout out to before we wrap it up?
One series that I started reading towards the end of last year that I'll shout out is Medical Return.
I think you told me about this one.
Yes, which is a isekai series, and it's one I like to mention because it's sort of in the Death Note field of it's mostly drama based and situational intellectual, and doesn't actually have any fights or anything like that. Just a large cast of characters in the medical field, and just the drama between our MC and the main antagonist, and just things like that, and watching as everything flows through the years of him reliving his medical years.
Okay. Yeah, you told me about that one, I'm pretty sure. All right, well, I feel like we can probably wrap up the show then. This is actually I feel like one of our better episodes, period. I feel like this is legitimately a pretty solid episode. I really
was good.
Yeah, I enjoy having conversations like these. So I'm looking forward to having more topics coming up. Like I said, we've got like a list of like 10 different things that we want to do. There is one of those in particular, and you know which one, that I am actually really excited to talk about and dive into that I thought of. But and I will say, for some of these topic episodes, Josh may come back for some of those, since there's not like a lot of like commitment prep. Because I mean, even now, like, for anyone new to AniMan Plus, Josh is the third co-host. He's been gone since like October, but it's because of work. Like even now, the dude still has not. Like I saw him put up a tweet like yesterday where he's like, I can't remember the last time I left work at the time I was scheduled to. Like he'll leave work like sometimes 4 or 5 hours after when he's supposed to. So it's just obviously impacted when doing the podcast with us, especially since we do the show during the week.
Yeah.
So one day he will be back. It's just a matter of when. But I know for some of these topic episodes, he may try to get into, since he doesn't have to like hard prep beforehand and watch a bunch of shows.
There's a reason why we went on hiatus, because there's not many people who are going to do the shit like I did. You gave me 3 days. I read 200 chapters.
Never forget that. Listeners and viewers, never forget that. Yeah, Josh was sick. Josh was sick. And dude, it was literally like episode 3, episode 4. Like the show just started, bro. And like he was sick and couldn't do the show. So I'm just like 3 days before, I'm like, yo, Zach, you want to come on and do the show with me? Because I knew Zach had watched God of High School. I knew he had read the webtoons, and God of High School anime just ended. So I was like, okay, easy way to do the show. Get him on. We'll talk about God of High School. Then this dude fucking shocks me by reading like 200-something fucking chapters and watching this. I'm like, okay, all right, we need to talk about further about you getting on the show more. And that is how Zach has became part of SparkE3. Yeah, good times. I say good times, but bro, like I mentioned you not long ago, I went back and listened to some of the early episodes. Whew, man,
they were rough.
Man, it just feels like it feels so awkward, because it's like you can very clearly tell that we were just still trying to find our voice, behind the mic and doing podcasting. So it's awkward.
And I was about to say, this is how Alex gets me on any of the shows, because like Lighthearted, which turned to Gamesthetic, I got like a 3-minute notice.
That is big true. Yeah.
So if I ever show up on a show for the first time, it's because he gave me like anywhere from a day to like 2 minutes notice.
Look, yeah, the 3-minute notice, that is a fact. That is a fact. Because Nick was unable to make the show, and I couldn't do the show the next day, and I still wanted to get the show done. So, Lighthearted, Gamesthetic, it's like there's not a lot of prep that goes behind it. I mean, really, the only thing that I would say is good to know is like if you have a basic, like kindergarten level understanding of the gaming industry, you can do the show. Other than that, just have an opinion. That's all it is, right? So I literally called Zach. I'm like, yo, can you do a podcast? And you're just like, when? I'm like right now. He's like, let me put on pants.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Good times. And now look at us. Gamesthetic, AniMan Plus. Hey, we're finally at a point where it's just like, I feel like all shows are in a very good established place. that's good to feel, because there was a time period where it's just like, all right, well, let's kind of figure this thing out as we go. You know, I feel like all shows are in a good established place, and they continue to grow in different ways, which is cool. Because like this show, I feel like this show is going to grow, you know, for us personally, just by, you know, introducing more like loose based topic episodes as part of normal episodes. Because we used to do shit like this for bonus casts, and we
fell off.
Yeah, because I mean, bonus cast ultimately was just us doing like 2, maybe 3 episodes a week.
Yeah,
and it's just like, or 2. Let me stress, 2 or 3 episodes a week of just this show. Because keep in mind, like here at SparkE3, we do 3 different shows weekly: AniMan Plus, Terrible Football Show, and Gamesthetic. All 3 I'm part of. Zach's part of 2. So like, you know, tagging on bonus cast and spoiler cast for like me and Zach, it's just like, yeah, I guess we can do it.
yeah.
So doing these sort of topics for like an official AniMan Plus numbered episode, I feel like it's pretty good for the show, honestly. Hopefully people resonate with it. Hopefully you enjoyed this conversation. I would love to hear people's thoughts, you know, so please comment down below, you know, your thoughts on anything that we chat about here, and your thoughts on what makes an anime or manga good. I definitely want to hear from you on that. And, you know, we've got more topics lined up. We may do another topic next week. Honestly, it just comes down if I catch up on stuff. I do have a busy weekend, so that's why it's kind of up in the air if I'm going to catch up on anything. I will say, catching up on stuff, you know, just to kind of keep the show a little bit lighter for the moment, because again, I got a lot of shit in my personal life I'm trying to sort through. We are going to slap off some of the animes on our list that we're going to review, because before we were reviewing 7 different shows.
Yep.
So like we'll still do Dragon Quest, just because like Zach's too far in now. I mean, it's the meme of AniMan Plus. He does, you know, it's the thing. I still want to do like Sabuki Bisco, Land of Leodale, we both mutually want to do, and Platinum End is almost over, so we'll go ahead and kind of keep doing that, and we will have a couple episodes of 86 that we'll chat about. But like Love of Kill, Tribe 9, Yashahime, those are ones that we may like just come back to when the series is done, which should be like in 3 or 4 weeks. Tribe 9 and Love of Kill should be done, I think. Yeah, because they're both only 12 apiece.
Yeah.
So they should be like episode 9 or 10 coming out. So only a few weeks from now, we might do like a little bit of a quick recap of how we thought of the first season or the series itself, whatever. We might do that, but we're gonna slap it off the weekly review. Again, good shows, recommend them. And then coming up here soon, like I said, Shield Hero Season 2. We do have Spy Family also come out in April. Like I said, 2 final 86 episodes. And I might do Comey Can't Communicate Season 2. I enjoyed Season 1.
I was about to say, because didn't they just announce Season 2 the other day?
It's coming out in April. Yeah, it's coming out in April. I enjoyed Season 1. I might try to watch it weekly for Season 2. I don't know how that's going to go. Because I know for Season 1, it came out in Japan, and then it came out like 4 weeks later on Netflix and was releasing weekly over here in the West. I don't know if they're doing it this time or if it's going to be a universal release. I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see if I do communicate. I might, and then I will try to dig through the spring list and see what else. I will say the spring list, I'm a little unsure about it. Besides our 2 big ones, whatever, because I did notice the spring list is very similar to the winter season list that we had, where it's like a lot of sequels, like new seasons for series that like neither of us watched.
Yeah.
So I mean, so I don't know. I do always try to look through the list of every new season, because I always want to try to find the next 86 for me, you know, or the next Tokyo Revengers for me, because those are both series that I had never heard of. I just read them, you know, on the spring list. I thought they looked cool, checked them out, and here we are now. We rave about them. So I will try to find something good. But yeah, the anime list will be cut down a little bit, just to compensate for the amount of time that I have and want to commit to this right now for the shows, because these like I said, what sparked this whole topic. You know, these shows, like, they're good, but they're not grabbing to a point where it's like I have to absolutely watch it every single week. You know, it's just like, okay, I'll try to make the time for it, because my big beef about it is like the moment like this really started to become like work is the moment where I'm just like, you know what I mean? Because up until now, none of this has felt like work to me, at least to me. Yeah. There's been a couple shows that has. 7 Deadly Sins, well, that was work. All right, that was work. Sakugan, that was work. Okay,
I mean, you had a few good episodes in there.
I did, but like Talk Op, that was not work. Even the beginning of Platinum End, that was not work. 86, not for a single moment was that work to me. Tokyo never felt like work, but there was a couple shows that's just like, all right, time to get my time in for the week. You know, it's just like, damn it. And that's how I felt towards like almost every show that we're watching. All good. It just feels like work. But we still, of course, do the manga chapter ratings, which I do need to catch up to a couple series that I forgot existed, like Eden Zero. I just caught up to Eden Zero today. Like when I was putting this script together so I could have things to remember, I got to the Weekly Shonen Magazine stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, I was reading Eden Zero and Seven Deadly Sins. I forgot.
Oops.
So got to catch up to those. But all right, we'll hit the music. We'll get out of here. Zach, last thoughts.
All right. Like, comment, subscribe, rate, whatever your platform allows. It does help, especially with this episode. Please leave a comment. Let us know if there's anything we missed that you think makes a good manga or anime, or if you like this idea of us doing these topics every once in a while. It does help. And you can also watch all this at www.SparkE3.com and SparkE3shop.com.
Yep.
And for merch.
Shout out to merch. Do we want to drop a promo code for AniMan Return?
That's up to you. You have control of the shop. Do we have anything worth a damn besides the B shirt?
I love the B shirt. The B shirt is dope. We'll launch a promo code, just promo code AniMan. 25% off everything in the shop, SparkE3shop.com, link down in the description below, as well as the promo code. Do everything Zach said and more. Join the Discord server. Go follow us on Twitter. I gotta say, if you listen to the show on any of the audio platforms, definitely go follow us on Twitter so you know why we randomly go on a break sometimes. Shit pops up, and that's the place to find out, as well as the website. I also put those up on the website in a blog form. Again, you can sign up to the website for free, or which again, it's for free. Sign up. What are you doing? Or if you're feeling generous, $5 a month, early podcast episodes, including this episode, will be up early on the website. Until next time, guys, have a good one. Glad to be back.
Bye.